also admit people in. Okay, looks great. So welcome everyone here today. It's really great to see your faces here in the Isa Valley, and also welcome the people in the live stream. And actually, this is our first on-site event since COVID, so about 2 years, and it's really excited to be here. And today we are having this event with management more, and we will also meet 3 awesome guest speakers. But before we start, I would like to give a short intro of our GDSCs. Oh, I hope this will be done automatically, but seems not. Let's maybe first start with a bunch of small questions. Who of you have already attended GDSC's events in the past? You can raise your hand. Okay, seems not so many. Who of you come for first time GDSC's events? Wow. Okay. Hope to see you in the later event as well. Great. Oh, I see people raising hand. And the next questions, who of you have been here already in the Google office? Okay, oh, still some hands. Cool. And who of you haven't? Yeah, actually me too. So it's also my first time here, so really glad. So first, who are we? Let me welcome my team here. Come here, yeah. Let's just do a first intro round. So I will get started. My name is Liangda Wang, and I'm currently studying my master's degree of information system at TU Munich in my 2nd semester. And I'm also currently leading the Google Developer Student Club at TU Munich, starting from last October. And it was really great to meet the people here and also you here to have this great event together. And
hello. Okay. Hi, I'm Maria Fosvalova, and I joined the DSC last year in October as well. And I'm currently studying computer science informatics bachelor's in my 8th semester.
I'm Adrian. I joined with Liangda together, back in October. I'm studying informatics in my 4th semester right now, so I'm about to write my thesis. And yeah, looking forward to have this event with all of you.
Hi, I'm Vivi. Probably some of you know me already. I'm also the founder of DSC, and it's really nice to see a lot of people back here after 2 years. Yeah, so hope you'll enjoy.
Great, thank you. And we also have 3 members who couldn't join today, but you probably have seen them before in our past events. And what's GDSC? There's a lot of description of it, but Google has a really great intro video of it, so I'm gonna play it for you.
Developer student clubs are university-based communities where students learn about Google technology and use their skills to solve local problems. There are over 700 clubs all over the world. From North America to Europe, Africa, and across Asia, we encourage more students to join or start a developer student club at their university.
Some students have overcome personal barriers with the help of their DSC community on their journey to become developers. These clubs help student developers learn through hands-on workshops. They then identify challenges faced by local businesses, NGOs, and sometimes even their own universities and build real solutions for real problems.
The workshops that we had was Firebase, Actions on Google, and we're about to do ML. It's an amazing experience to learn about the impact that the technologies can provide in our local communities.
DSC is a family, and it's not just about the programming, it's about the learning of teamwork and leadership.
a lot of villages face the problem of water, farming, floods. Maybe we can develop applications to solve this problem. Might be very ambitious for us as students to say that, but nothing is impossible. We can do it.
Developer student clubs around the world have already impacted so many students in their universities and people in their community. The future is bright for the next generation of students.
Okay, great. So to summarize, we are a university-based community group for students from all students who are interested in growing as a developer, who are interested in developer technologies. And actually, we're also not limited in Google technologies. So whatever you are interested in or want to learn, we're glad to organize such events. And yeah, by joining us, you can grow your knowledge in a peer-to-peer learning environment. Oh, okay. So great, that's about us. And now, without further ado, I want to welcome our Manage and More speakers. And also we have 3 speakers. I think you will do an intro then by yourself. Then I'll hand over to you now.
Yes, thank you very much, Liangda. So I'm Philip, I'm from Manage and More, and yeah, when Liangda or when the GDSC approached us with the idea to do a joint event, we immediately thought it was super interesting to meet you guys. And maybe first of all, just as Liangda did as an example, we would like to hear who of you has heard of Manage and More before? That looks really, really good. So we thought that actually your community at GDSC and also of other people who joined today who are not part of GDSC would be a great fit actually to the community of Manage and More and what we do in our program. So our team, or my team, together with Almo, Corinna and Till and Max, we organized this joint event. And maybe you guys want to introduce yourself as well. Maybe starting off with Almo.
Hi, my name is Almo. I'm also studying computer science in the 8th semester bachelor's currently. So if you want to talk something technical, you can also come to me.
And I'm Max, I'm 27. I study business administration. So if you want to go more into the business side, come talk to me.
Hi, my name is Karina. I study Romance languages and education management, and I'm in my 2nd Manage and More semester, and feel free to talk to me.
Yeah, hi, also from my side, I'm Till. I'm in the newest Manage and More generation, so number 37. And I study management and technology at TUM. So yeah, basically also if you have any business related things, come to me.
Yes, and then we also brought 3 former Manage and More scholars with us, Yvonne, Katrin, and Felix. You will hear a lot of them later on. But just as a small introduction, Yvonne found a startup called Tyco. They're doing, she will tell you later what they're doing. I do not want to take away the surprise and the excitement. Yeah, Yvonne, Katrin, and Felix, you will meet later as well. And I would like to introduce a little bit what we have planned today. So first of all, you will hear the pitches of our speakers, and you are able to ask questions. You can ask questions about how Manage and More has helped them found their tech startup. You can ask them about their problems during their everyday business and the current challenges. And afterwards, we will have a short break so you can refuel on beer and other snacks. And then you will get a small introduction on what Manage and More is, what the program looks like, what things you need to keep in mind when you want to apply. And we will do a small Q&A afterwards together with our speakers, which can answer you even more questions. And afterwards, we will just have a relaxed meet and mingle and network and exchange with each other. So I'm happy to hand over to Yvonne, who will tell you about her startup, Tyco.
Thank you.
I'm Yvonne, as introduced. I'm about to finish my master's in management technology, so also all the business related stuff. And I founded Tyco, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tyco. And before I tell you a little bit about my story and the journey behind founding Tyco so far, I'd like to tell you a bit what we're doing. It's a B2B startup, so it's a bit complicated to say in one sentence. So what we envision in Tyco is what we call the evolution of media. So let's say you work in the marketing department of a big company, then you have a lot of different channels that you can do your advertising with, right? So you have digital channels like social media, Google search, and then you have also more traditional channels like TV or radio. And then, of course, as you want to optimize your marketing, you want to analyze how each campaign went on each channel, but there's the problem. Since there's no common standard to actually compare the different channels with each other, so the performance of the advertisement. And so you have the digital world, I'd say, with views, clicks, impressions, and then you have classical channels like TV and radio that are measured completely differently. And besides the data not being comparable on top of that, the data also lies with a lot of different stakeholders. Especially for the classical world again, you have to work together with a lot of agencies, and you get CSV files, Excel sheets, PowerPoint presentation from each and every one of them. So this is our super complex data, not comparable, and then the data is also with a lot of different stakeholders. And this is where we come into place, and what we're trying to solve with our no-code solution is that we bring together, so we aggregate all the data from all different media channels, classic and digital, and then we make them comparable with own analytics in one dashboard. And with this, we are creating a single source of truth, so to say, for transparent and data-driven marketing decisions. And we did our pre-seed round actually in February. This was quite. Thank you. This was like the first step that was really, really cool. And now we're about to onboard our first customers, also super exciting. And if you ask me about struggles, this is also one of the 2 points where you struggle the most, I guess. And well, our vision is to enhance our product portfolio with products along this data journey of media optimization, and to actually, well, help marketing decision makers even further in optimizing their marketing and media activities. And maybe a little bit about the journey behind that. So I founded Tyco together with 3 amazing and experienced co-founders, and they all have a lot of industry knowledge. They had high positions in big companies, and they are renowned in the media industry. And then there's me, and I'm quite young, by far the youngest one in the team, and this is all really new for me. But still, from the beginning, it was quite clear that I would fill the role of CEO. And as we build our company, and then also at least when we legally founded Tyco, because then you have to sign a lot of stuff, then I actually, like, it hit me, I'm actually in charge of this company, of running this company. And as I'm the youngest one, and as I'm the one with the least experience, I was like, how am I going to do this? Isn't this like 10 sizes too big for me and my knowledge and my skills? And I think this was, and still is, one of my biggest challenges so far. So, but in the end, if you found a company and if you start your own company, I guess you're never gonna feel like what you're doing is good enough. And then also that the product is not nearly perfect enough to show to people. This is a major point. And that your skill set is not advanced enough to handle all the tasks that you have to deal with in day-to-day business. But this is where Manage More helped me a lot as well. So on the one side, you have the program with workshops and well, coachings and stuff like this that really help you, well, get this entrepreneurial mindset and learn important skills. And then on the other side, and even more important for me, you have these amazing people around you that will help you on the journey, that motivate you, that can help you with certain tasks as well, because they did that before. And in the end, I learned that Managing More is actually just the start of a lifelong journey, I guess. And it's not like you leave Manage More after 1.5 years and are like done with the game. You finish the game, it's well played. but actually, I mean, I learned a lot and I developed a lot personally, but what was even more fascinating for me to see that I unlocked even more levels of potential personal development that I still have to go through and that I didn't even think about in the beginning. So I guess my key learning is that you're never gonna feel good enough and you're never gonna feel like the product is good enough and that your skill level is enhanced enough. But that's all okay. It's all gonna be overwhelming. But in the end, that also motivates you to well, develop further, to actually build a better product, to, I don't know, learn new things. And so, but I think it's important to build like this environment around you for this long journey that you're going on that can, well, have you back. So people that have you back. And this is what Manager More actually is for me. Thanks. So if there are any questions. I can also read questions from the text. I didn't bring my glasses, but I'm trying my best, if there are any. Yeah.
How come it was clear that you were going to be the CEO as you were the one with the method?
So I'm just going to repeat that for maybe the rest of the room and also for the people online. The question was why it was clear that I'm going to fill the role of the CEO since I didn't have the experience. Well, actually, I have an amazing team and they all have different backgrounds, especially in product and tech. And then we have someone on the partner and strategy side. So from the skills that I got from my university, and if I would have been in a team with likely with the same age people, then I would have probably gone in that role too with my background in management and technology. And it was just strange for me because I was the youngest one, but actually age doesn't matter in that case. So I was just fitted best for this particular role, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a long journey. Actually, one of the co-founders is my dad. So I met him quite early in life. He met a lot of amazing people during his journey as well. And he brought us all together, I'd say. Yeah. Yes.
So if I like family business, how do you keep the relations between that and your business?
So the question was like having 2 family members and then 2 other guys from the founding team. How do you balance that? Actually, I thought about this in the beginning a lot, but then in the end, actually, I don't really feel like he's my dad when we work together. So for us, it's quite easy to keep these 2 worlds separated. So actually, I have it doesn't feel like a family business or anything. We have all, I think, like in every team, it's really important to have separate tasks and separate like divisions that you take care of. Yeah, follow-up question. Yes, totally. I mean, maybe from another perspective, and more like I switched in another role, right? I'm a daughter that talks about founding her own company and the struggles maybe she has with this. But yeah, yeah.
You mentioned personal development, and I'm also truly convinced that you must get out of your comfort zone to drive personal development. How was it for you to handle uni, to handle startup, whilst also thinking that your skill set and the product isn't good enough?
So the question was how you deal with uncertainty in the startup while also you're doing university and stuff, and then also taking care about your personal development, right? Well, that's a struggle. I'm still finishing my master's thesis right now, so I'm actually right in it. And I'm gonna be honest. So that's the second try I have for my master thesis that I'm doing right now. So it's not gonna be like all butterflies and it's not gonna be all pretty. And I struggle a lot. But then I prioritized my startup over my master thesis. But now it's quite clear that I have to finish it. Otherwise, yeah, I don't finish my master's. But I think you have to communicate a lot in the team as well. So there's always right now we have more on the product and tech side. Because they have to develop. and test and stuff. So this is why I have a little bit more time for my master thesis. So it's a balance, and that's also, I mean, I can talk to them and some of here in here that are with Manage More because they have the same struggle, and that really helps. But it's a lot of work. I mean, it's still time consuming. Yeah. Yeah, over there. Yes. Mhm. So more business-related question on which customer group that we are targeting. We're targeting medium to big-size companies. As our product portfolio goes a bit further into also forecasting, and if you're familiar with the topic, media mix modeling and attribution models and so on, and this is nothing that a super small company needs. And on the other side, we also, with the classical channels, you just don't do that much classical or traditional TV, radio advertisement if you're a bit smaller. Yeah, so that's why I'm targeting bigger companies. Yes.
What tips do you have for youngsters like us who would like to start a startup someday at some point in their life?
Join Manage More. So the question was if I have any tips if you want to fund a startup. I'd say actually joining Manage More really helped me. I think I would never have found it this early. I remember in my application I wrote, I can imagine someday doing it. But then, yeah, I kind of, with the whole surrounding, you're kind of pushed into it. I think just jump and just do it. And there are a lot of different people from Manage More that, I don't know if you heard about Proglaf being sold. That's also Manage More startup being sold right now for like 500 million or something from Thomas Kirchner. And he did actually like, I don't know, 5 startups or something that didn't work. And now, well, worked in the end. So I think just go for it. And if it doesn't work, then try another one and try another one. Yes. Yeah, over there.
How did you plan and build your MVP?
How we plan and build our MVP. Well, actually, I went on the tech side a little bit, even though that's actually not my expertise. But I did like Figma stuff and just, well, we sat together and said like what is important. And then, of course, you interview a lot of people, ask them what they need. And yeah, so it's a lot of like back and forth, actually. So you try something and then. Well, he didn't write the code for it. We have other people in our team, but so we have a CPO and a CTO, and the CTO is also a developer. So I think that helps. I think also having that division between CPO and CTO helps. But I'm not from the tech side. It looks good from the outside. I think there's a question in the text. Am I currently hiring? Actually, yes. So if anyone is interested, reach out to me. Are there any further questions? Otherwise, I'd leave the stage. Yes.
How did you find your first customer?
Well, this is also one of the perks of having an experienced team with people that already have connections. So, well, we know people that already have the problem. So we talk to them, and then it starts like this, and then someone refers you to another one, and so on and so forth. So we didn't do like cold calls or something so far, as we're just in the pilot stage, and we don't need like 500 customers in our solution right now. So that suffices with personal contacts, but that's gonna come, and this is gonna be my job, and it's gonna be exhausting. All right, any more questions? Thank you so much, and happy to talk to you later.
Yes, so thank you very much, Yvonne. So if there are any other questions coming up later, you still have a lot of time to ask her during the networking, but also during the panel discussion. So yeah, if there are more questions coming up, don't worry. Yeah, and as I think Sebastian was pointed out, if you're interested to support Yvonne in her journey, then also talk to her later on. She maybe needs developers. And now I'll please give a warm applause to Katrin, who will give you the next pitch with her startup, River AI. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy, and I'm part of River AI. And today I want to talk a bit about our journey and how we got there. We at River AI, we aim to accelerate AI development with privacy-safe synthetic data. But why do we do that, or what is that even? So I think we all would like to elevate our health, to be healthy, and we would all love to have that based on data, right? But on the other hand, we also don't want our health data to fly around and for everyone to access it. And often in healthcare, you have the issue of poor data quality. So you would think that AI and healthcare are not really going together, that it's a really, really difficult challenge. But we at River, we can bridge this gap using synthetic data, which basically means taking original data, generating synthetic data out of it, and then using that for your AI development. What is synthetic data? Basically fake data that has the same statistical dependencies. So you could think of it like forging an artwork. So it kind of looks the same, but it's not actually the original. And what can you do with it really? Well, first you anonymize the data. So privacy is no longer an issue, and reversing it to the real patients is also not possible. And then you can access data in minutes, which means hospitals are able to build up huge data pools and then share them with AI experts like startups and really build really good AI models. And then you can complete missing information, which solves this whole data quality issue. We have 3 people at River, all students or former students. There's Simona, who's our hardcore techie, our hacker, who did research in the whole synthetic data space. Then there's Jonas, who is our business and Excel expert. And then there's me. I'm also a techie and AI engineer, but I'm doing the whole product part, so bringing both worlds together. And how did we even get here? Well, we all met in scholarships. Jonas and me met at Manager More, and this is us doing our first user interview. And on the other side, there's Simona and me in a steel factory somewhere in the north of Germany. And we started by just doing problem interviews. So we didn't really have an idea or anything specific in mind. We just talked to people for 6 months. Interviews after interviews after interviews. And then at one point we settled on this whole, okay, privacy issue and bringing data to AI. And then we thought, okay, let's look into specific industries. We think healthcare is something that would really interest us. But we thought to go into healthcare, you need a ton of experience, domain knowledge, and healthcare network. So specifically things that you would have after like 30 years of experience. So we thought, okay, we have exactly 0 out of these 3 things. So maybe let's not do that straight away. Let's go and look at other industries. So who needs sensitive data? Who needs personal data? Well, finance, for sure. Let's go, let's talk to them. Let's build Figma prototypes. Let's try to sell it. Well, it didn't work out at all. Totally crashed. Then we were like, okay, healthcare is still kind of interesting, but all of these 3 really big points, let's try something else first. Who else needs that data? Well, insurance. They even have even more sensitive data. Let's talk to them. Well, same thing, didn't work out. And then we were a bit desperate and we were like, okay, who else kind of maybe has sensitive data? Well, HR, right? Let's talk to HR companies. Well, that was an epic fail, didn't work out at all. And then we were like, okay, this healthcare thing keeps bugging us. Let's try anyway. Let's do it anyway. Threw all the Figma prototypes away, started new. And where did that get us? Well, we have an Approved Success scholarship now. We actually managed to build an MVP, so get out of the whole Figma prototype space. We are doing 2 research collaborations with big clinics in Munich and in Cologne. And we have our 2 of our first customers that we're doing paid pilots with. So actually worked out in the end. And instead of these 3 things, what you really need is grit and a great complementary team that you love to work with. So it's not necessarily about just having all of this experience from the start. Don't get me wrong, it really helps. it saves you a ton of time, but you can all learn that along the way, and you shouldn't get discouraged because there are people with a lot more experience. And I think this is where Manager More also really helped me, because you have all of these people around, like Yvonne, for example, it's going through similar things. And you can talk to them and you see, okay, it's totally normal that I don't have it all right now, that I can learn it. And you also meet great co-founders who are amazing. Yeah. And yes, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Yeah.
Have you considered taking a person with a medical background?
So the question was if we considered taking a person with medical background in our team. Yes, we did. And we talked to people who took in co-founders at the very late stage, and everyone recommended us not to do so because it usually causes conflicts within the team and then the whole startup fails. I mean, that's why we decided not to take them in as co-founders, but more as like first employees. Because if you have experienced other people made, basically, yeah.
So you already have some people with medical backgrounds in your team now?
Well, we work together with physicians that look at our data and validate the data. They are not actual employees, but we work with them in corporations. Yep. Yes. So the question was, who are our actual customers? Very good question. So it's a bit of a more complicated business model. The thing is, you don't want to sell to hospitals, especially not in Germany, because sales cycles are under a year is not possible, and software as a service is not a concept for them. So you don't want to sell it to them. But they're more our partners, and they pay us a one-off fee for building these data pools, and then they sell these data models that we generate to AI startups or to innovators. There's also pharma companies buying them, and we take a commission from that. That's essentially how it works. Yeah.
You mentioned that you didn't have much success at the beginning. What helped keep you going?
Okay, so the question was what helped us keep going. Yeah, I think, to be totally honest, this is how, like, at least how I heard how a typical startup journey usually is. You fail forward, so this is what you should expect. And I think specifically what helped me going was my team, because I really enjoyed working with them and seeing that it's normal. I think those are things. And then I always follow the gold nuggets. So when you're founding a startup, you hear a lot of negative feedback, which you should listen to, which is important. But you should more or less concentrate on the things that are working and the good parts and just follow the gold nuggets, and it will lead you somewhere. Yeah, that's my answer. Yeah.
How important is the team dynamic and shared vision in overcoming internal conflict? Like, ever have a huge conflict where you're about to say, okay, no, I can't work with this person anymore? How are you able to overcome?
So the question was, how important is the team dynamic to overcome conflicts, and how you overcome them, right? Okay. Yeah, I think we had a really rough phase when me and Jonas were writing our master thesis, and Simona was already full-time on the project, which is a dynamic you don't really want to have, of course. And I think it's really important that you have psychological safety within your team so that everyone is able to speak their mind and to share their thoughts and their feelings without anyone judging and everyone else listening. And I think this is also where Manager More really helped us, because it's so much about personal development and getting to know yourself and reflecting your own behavior and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what really helped us to use all of these tools that we learned in one-on-one coachings and personal development and take that into our team and really exercise it there. Yeah.
And did you experience, or do you experience clashing personalities or differences in work ethics, or how does it work so well between the three of you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely have very different work styles of work. For example, Simona is kind of more the hippie personality who likes to have a really great work-life balance and travels around a lot. And me and Jonas, we're very different. But for us, it's actually more of a, like, of course we have conflicts, every team does, but it's more of a gift because Simona pulls us out of the way that we are thinking. And she helps us to maybe not stay in until 12 at night and maybe go home, or to have more flexibility in mind in general. So you should try to view it more as a chance than as a conflict. But of course, there will be clashes. I think that's like, you can't really avoid it. Yeah.
I like how you pivoted multiple times. How far did you go with the former approaches?
Basically, we built Figma prototypes and we tried to sell them, and yeah, no one wanted to buy them. So we never really developed like actual tech. So the farthest thing that we went to was taking GitHub repositories and running them. And that was it. So not actually developing stuff, like actual coding it. That's what we're doing now, but back then. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
To how many customers did you show your prototype?
I think it was, I don't think we had like similar number every time, but it was like what we looked at was conversion rates. So if we did reach outs and then we had really low conversion rates, we stopped. And then also, yeah, it was also a lot of gut feeling, to be totally honest. So it wasn't all totally analytical. Yeah. Yeah.
X seems really maybe drop one or two buzzwords for us techies, like differential privacy on images or.
Yeah, someone knows this stuff. Okay. So the question was, what kind of tech are we using? Yeah, we use generative adversarial networks, and we're also looking into diffusion models, if you heard of them. And we are using differential privacy mechanisms within the neural networks to, yeah, make it more safe. Thank you. To make it more, yeah, not reversible. Yeah. Yeah.
Was the approach to the healthcare industry different?
So the question was if our approach to the healthcare industry was different. Definitely, because in the healthcare industry, you always deal with way more stakeholders, which are very, very shitty accessible, to be honest. So what we did, like first to access the customer, what we did is we pitched everywhere. Every program that wanted us, we went there. Every pitch competition that wanted us, we went there. People kind of were sick of us, I think, at one point. Because these cold calls, they don't work. I don't know if they work in the finance sector. We obviously never sold to them, but how we approach them was different. And then also how you build the product is vastly different because you have to incorporate so many stakeholders and incentivize so many different people that don't necessarily have the same incentives or the same way of thinking. Yeah, I think that's how you had to think very differently and reach out to people very differently. And also another thing, the way you get physicians and doctors to listen to you is research. So that's why we also do these research collaborations and bring out papers, because that's what they actually pay attention to or what they actually believe in. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think there's someone in the chat ask if you can increase the volume. Maybe you can hold it closer to the mouse.
Yeah. Sorry.
And no problem, no problem. I think I'm going to give the microphone to the person who asked the question so that people could hear clearly in the live stream. So what's next?
Hi, you mentioned statistical dependencies and you mentioned GANs. And I wanted to ask you that I think that's a really hard problem. How do you solve that? Because I heard that, for example, the GANs have the problem that if you just have the same picture and just add a little bit of Gaussian noise, it looks like completely the same. And then the GAN just, is basically like useless. How do you solve that statistical problem? I think that's a really, really hard problem.
So your question is how we ensure the data quality. Is that the question? Just so I get it right.
Like, so you're basically forging pictures.
Yeah.
And it's actually a statistical problem. How do you like solve all these statistical problems that, for example, if you just add a little bit of Gaussian noise to a picture, the GANs, they stop working.
So essentially, because you're able to generate more data with GANs, we can just pick and choose more or less which pictures we want to use. So the ones that don't really work, we just throw them out. And we also, together with GANs, use like more deterministic ways. So what we also do is we model tumors into lung X-rays, for example. So if like there's stuff missing, like if you have the whole patient population, if you have like tails of the distribution missing, we do that in a deterministic way. And then also we have like some sort of optimization stuff that we developed that's also working. So it's like a multiple different approaches that we're using. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I think that's a company secret also, right?
More or less. Okay.
Any other questions?
I think we're.
Yes, so thank you very much, Katrin. Very interesting pitch and very interesting startup for sure. It was also very interesting to hear you talk about your team first approach and that maybe the idea is not so important after all in the beginning, but that a good team and grit is the success factor. Very interesting. So maybe also in the panel round later on, we can talk in more detail about how you can find your team. So let's move on to our final speaker tonight, Felix. He founded the startup Park Here. And I think you did a lot of pitches already, right, in the last couple of years. So we are looking very much forward to your pitch and to your questions from the crowd.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I did a lot of pitches, but I think the last pitch is almost 2 years ago. I don't know if this is a good or bad sign. I will use the first couple of minutes just to guide you through the product and the company, so what we're doing today. Also giving you a little bit of insight about the track record. And then at the end, I can give you some learnings. But first of all, before we start into it, I like to reflect, because I was standing downstairs in front of the door and I was thinking back to 2015, when it was also my second management semester, which was kind of the beginning of Park Here. And I standing downside and I was feeling all this energy you guys have. And when I was standing there together with Max, he's also one of the early team members of Park Here, we felt somehow a little bit old because we don't have that energy like you have it today. I think this is really something special, really beginning, before you do your first work, before you get your first failures and your learning curve, having all this energy. And I think this should you trying to keep as long as you can. So, yeah, our company is dealing with parking, especially with traffic. You can see here a picture, that's Munich, 7:30 in the morning. And if you look at the same street a little bit later, or the similar street a little bit later, all the traffic is gone. The reason for that is that many people, millions of people are commuting every day to work. And if we have a look at the numbers, then 14% take public transportation to get to their employer, 9% the bike, and 8% they're walking, so they take a foot. And 68% are using a car. So maybe you're wondering, okay, there was Corona and there was a lot of people switching to home office and all that stuff. And of course, this also changed in the mode of transport the people are using, but especially the car usage got even increased. Because if people are coming, they like to have a secure way to get to work, and then they more likely to take a car than another another way of transport. Sorry. So having 68% of people using their car to get to work is also meaning that the employer have to provide a lot of parking spaces. So the employees making the employers to the biggest parking operators, which we have in Germany and also in Europe. Maybe you first will think about all the parking space we do have in the street and in the airport and all that stuff. But the biggest parking operators we do have are companies providing parking lots to their employees. And most of them are not professional. I would say 99%. So this leads to high inefficiencies because they don't know how to operate them in a professional way. Parking spaces are empty. Although people would like to park, people get really unsatisfied because they see that someone gets a parking permission, but they don't get. And at the end, they're renting in total too much parking spaces, paying a high rent, 30 to 50K for a company in Munich, for example, which they don't need. And at the beginning, if they're thinking about building a new building, then they also overplan and they have too much parking space in general there. So that's why we developed Park Here OS. We're connecting parking spaces with mobility services. And we do this in 3 steps. The first step is we are making a digitalization and automation of the whole parking process. So people get an app where they can book parking spaces, for example. And we also provide a dashboard where the parking operator, so the company, can set parking permissions, introducing parking fees and all that stuff. Then the second step is that we are doing an integration of mobility services. So we're connecting the parking space to mobility service. Means, for example, we're connecting to carpooling, so people can share a ride instead of using a parking spot. We're also connecting to electrical infrastructure like EV charging stations, because if people like to park, they also like to, of course, charge in the future, and many others. And then the third step is that we are running this whole, or we're supporting the corporate to running this whole approach. And then it's not a parking spot anymore, it's more a mobility hub. So we're supporting on this way from having a professional parking operator approach for my employees to get a transfer to being a professional mobility hub operator. Why is this important? We believe that we're doing a really good job in efficiency on the parking spot itself, but honestly, the car is not the efficient way of transport if we're talking about space efficiency. You can see here a picture. This are like 48 people, and let's imagine they like to get to work. You see the absolutely waste spinner is the bus. Then there's bike, and the loser is the car. So if we're talking about in a bigger context, especially about in smart city context, about having more efficiency also in space, then it's not just optimizing a parking itself, then it's also transferring from individual car, using your own car, to new ways of transport. And this is what we're also doing, because if you don't get a parking spot at your employee, then you need another transport module. And this is something we just started. So for example, if you're trying to reserve a parking spot at Microsoft, you can get one with our app, and then the employee knows he can park there. And now we are on the way that if you don't get a parking spot, then you get the option to book or to see at least other transportability modes which can bring you to work. And this leads now to the way from just parking and 68% of people using a car to supporting new ways of transport. Yeah, the progress we did since 2016 is that we are today having around 50 people in our team. I think the team is one of our biggest assets. So many companies say that the team are one of the biggest assets. I believe the right team is the biggest asset. And this, of course, is also our main growth driver right now. So finding the right people is kind of also harming our growth, but it's also supporting it a lot. So right now, for example, we have another 5 open positions. We just filled 10. And in general, we have around 150 applications before we choose the person we are hiring in the company. We hit the 1 million ARR. So ARR is like a key metrics for software as a service companies. Maybe one of you or some of you knows. And the 1 million is something like a really important symbolic milestone. Someone just told me that only 1% of the companies in the world have more than 1 million ARR in total. That sounds not that much, but of course there's also a lot of companies there, and we got there. And having right now a whole growth potential of 400%. So from last year to this year, we increased our revenues by 400%. We're planning to keep on this growth by at least 100%. And this may be also special about our company with little external funding. So we just raised until today 2.5 million euros in finance equity from investors. And then we have another 2 million of subsidiaries and researching projects and all this stuff. So there were coming money from the government, which led us to those, I think, quite good numbers. And of course, the last really interesting point here to know is also that we're profitable as a company. So we're completely independent. We can have this growth by at least 100% every year without the need of external funding. Yeah, these are some awards. Like I said, we are on the market like since 2016, and there we were pitching a lot. We kind of won the Mobility Pioneers Award. We got from McKinsey and Handelsblatt in the finals of the Spark Award and all that stuff. Yeah, but I think prizes are especially in the beginning important. You see that right now we have other priorities. And if you have any questions right now, please feel free to ask me. Like I said, we're also hiring another 5 people. There are also some tech guys under those 5 people, especially also head of software, which is going to support our CTO in the next couple of months and probably also years to get those growth, which we are planning done. Thank you.
Test. As you mentioned, techies right at the end. How many % of your team are basically techies?
Oh, I think right now around 35%.
Yeah, let's say I book a parking spot through your app. What prevents someone else to park at my spot?
That's a good question. There's kind of two logic. The first one is that we have a barrier, and you just can enter if you have reserved a parking spot. So the barrier is opening. There's a license plate recognition and a QR code, so the barrier is opening, and then you enter. And sometimes some of our customers have a reservation per spot, so you get a number, and then you have to be there. So, for example, you have the number 10, and you are standing on number 9. Then the guy or the woman is coming and think, okay, someone is standing in my spot. Then you have something like an functionality in the app where you can say, okay, someone is standing on my parking spot, and then you get a new one. It's pretty simple.
Have you actually forced your very first customers to move from the traditional parking experience to use your digitalized service?
I think the first customer was the Telefonica here in Munich, which were using the system. Maybe you know this big O2 tower. The parking spaces downstairs, they're fully operated by our system. Yeah, they were looking for a parking solution because they had a problem that they have like 600 parking spaces, and those 600 parking spaces belong to 600 persons. And on the other side, they had a waiting list for parking permission, so people which wanted to park, of 800 people. And when some of those 800 people got to their car and then they went to Telefonica, then they saw that there's a lot of space in the garage, but they don't get a parking permission, and they had to wait up to 4 years to get one. So this, of course, was not really satisfying Telefonica. So we implemented our system. Now the status quo there is that we have still not 100% occupancy, so there's still some spaces left. All of the 800 people have now a parking permission, and they decrease the amount of parking lots they in total have by around 40%.
And another question, if you don't mind, have you thought also about like moving or going wider from big companies also to some big public parkings, like big underground parkings, or doesn't make a sense in profitability?
Yeah, we started at the beginning also having a parking sensor. This was like the first product Park here developed. We was also really well known for this. This first sensor was like a super technical, interesting thing because it was self-powered. So when cars were driving over it, they were kind of triggering the energy in the sensor, and then the sensor was measuring if the space is occupied or not and send it to a backend. And this was planned to sell to cities. We decided to stop this product because selling to cities takes really, really long. And there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. So we never knew, okay, how big and how fast is the market really growing? And today, from a perspective now 5 years later, I believe that the amount of parking spaces is getting decreased in the city. And if we think about 10, 15 years in the future, there will be no on-street parking spaces anymore. There will be space for, like now it happened already in Corona, restaurants put their chairs and their tables there instead of having parked people. But the interesting thing is that on the other side, those corporate parking spaces, they are owned by corporates. So the pressure there will get bigger. And we are already in pilot projects that, for example, a company can provide their parking spaces overnight at the weekend to the public. Because they are not used then. And now thinking about all the electrification, most of our customers will have 50 to 70% of their parking spaces electrified. So there will be EV charging stations, and there will be so many people in the city living which don't have a parking spot and don't have a charging station. And then they can, when they come home overnight, just park and charge their car there.
And there's actually a question in the chat. Do you consider Park Here a startup?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of definition. I think the feeling is, I also think the nice thing working for our company is that on one side, we still just 50 people. That's not that much. And the company in general is growing way more faster than the increase of people. So we have more than 100 customers, and we will double this by the end of next year, but we will not double the amount of people. And this is kind of the really startup feeling. There's high transparency in decision making, high transparency also in goal setting. But on the other side, we're not that short on money always. We can put some marketing budgets on stuff, we can try out stuff, and we can also kind of having people which don't have to deliver always directly products which can be sold. So I think it's right now, it's really fun. And I mean, in the beginning, it's really messy and you're switching and you're focusing a lot. And I think it's really important. But right now we're trying to have the best out of two worlds. The one a little bit is more established world, and the other really excited and agile world to try things new out and to push the whole approach straightforward.
You talked about the importance of the team when founding a startup. If I may ask, how did you meet your team, and how did you know that these are the right people to found a startup with?
Yeah, I didn't know. To answer the last question, was luck that we kind of fit together. I met Clemens, my first co-founder, in a Manager More scholarship. So we were kind of making internal projects for 6 semesters, for 1 semester, for 6 months. And then we thought, okay, those internal projects are pretty nice, but it would be better to have maybe an own startup. And then we were starting to evaluate the ideas. And my third co-founder, Jacob, and Clemens, they know each other from studies. And then we were just starting to work together. And at the end, it worked out. So I never knew that they're the right people, but I mean, there were some challenges at the beginning. And I think they're from a practical approach, challenges which kind of testing the team. And if you don't go through those challenges together, yeah, then then you know that's not the right people.
You talked about the market trends that you see in the last 5 years. How do you see your company in, let's say, 10 to 15 years regarding your business model and like expanding and the resulting profits from that and the growth? I mean, the growth.
Yeah. A number I just read again was that for every car we have here in Germany, we have 8 parking spaces. So every car has 8 parking spaces because you have one at home, you have one at work, you have one at the supermarket, you have one at the airport and all that stuff. So the market we do have is really, really huge. And right now we're focusing on corporate parking spaces because we believe they will be reduced by last. So first they will be in the city. Then, of course, people will use other transportation model, for example, to go to the airport and all that stuff. But the corporates, especially the corporates which are in an urban area, they really will stay there longest with the space, and they're most open-minded to try out new things. For example, we could also think about having there like plans, like there's Infarm, a startup in Berlin, and they have like those growing plants in garages and in supermarkets and all that stuff. And you could do this, for example, also in the parking. So from a parking perspective, we will grow a couple of years with the same product and same approach, and then we will more extend to optimizing space.
Yeah, thanks, Felix, for the great, interesting talk. So you are building a hardware startup at the same time as building a software startup. So do you see, like, you experience, I would say, a lot of challenges. Can you maybe please talk about more about the challenges of building like a hardware startup at the same time of like where people say software is the way to go today?
Yeah, I mean, like I said already, the first product we had was a self-powered parking sensor, and people really loved it. And I think this was the reason why we won the most prizes, because it was really simple. It was kind of fascinating that there's somehow a hardware device which is kind of generating energy, and there was a nice pitch around it. So this kind of opened us a lot of doors. So thinking back, maybe it opened too much doors, and we realized too late that it's maybe the wrong product because the market is not there. And the point where we realized that was by we were making pilot projects with different cities. One of the cities was the city of St. Gallen in Switzerland, and they were looking for a parking sensor to be implemented in 2,500 parking spots. And we were testing with them for a month, and we were competing to other sensors which were battery powered and all that stuff. And after 9 months, they offered us to make the 2,500 parking spaces. So it was like the first city in whole Europe which is going to this big approach. And then we realized, okay, what is going to happen if we now go for those 2,500 hardware pieces? Because the hardware was not ready, the costs were quite too high. We were still making a loss per space with every sensor. And then at the end, we believe that this will be one city, but there will be probably not more cities. And then we just declined the offer and decided to completely get rid of the sensor and more focus on the software. Because, and we're still doing today software, the profit is way more better and it's easier to scale. To give you an idea, today a customer like Telefonica size, they're paying 20 to 30 to 40K upfront initial, and there we have like 1% hardware cost inside. And then they have a license of up to 50K per year, and this is almost everything is margin. Compared to a hardware, it's way less easy also to bootstrap at the beginning and to reach those milestones we have without external funding.
Yeah, as a follow-up question, because you mentioned it and I wanted to ask about it. You said that you didn't need a lot of external funding, which is great, I think, for a startup. What was your secret?
I think at the beginning we were bootstrapping quite a lot, and then we had really good paying customers. For example, Telefonica almost paid $500,000 for the first project. We were developing a lot of products, specific stuff also in that project. We got Porsche at the first customer, and they were also paying around 250K. So I think we did really good at the beginning at the sales side, which got money into the company, which was financing also the whole development. Yeah, and we did a lot of prices, and then it's really worth it to also double check researching project of the government of Bavaria, also Germany. It's really annoying because it's like long texts and you have to describe everything, and then they need like 3 or 6 months to get your first answer, but it's really worth it. Already at the beginning of your startup, write some of those proposals, and then 1.5 or 2 years later, they finally get agreed, and then you have like also 500 to 800K of funding without giving any shares away.
And we have the last question, which is in the chat. How do you feel with other startups as competition? Do you talk to them and exchange ideas? And you can ask your other questions at the end of during our networking event, so don't worry, you will get your chance.
Yeah, Park Depot, for example, I think it's also managing more startup, and we are not competitors. I mean, from a technical perspective, we are, because they also have somehow a license plate recognition and an app, but we have completely different customers. And I also believe that we are going to develop I don't know, I cannot talk for Park Depot, but we are going to develop our further product really close to our core customer. And our core customers are corporates and also real estate. And Park Depot is right now in a completely different segment. So there's no competition. I think there's also no other company in Germany which have this size and this speed providing mobility solutions, especially parking solutions for corporate companies. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you very, very much, Felix, for a great pitch. So if you didn't get your chance now to ask a question, there will be a chance later on as well, so don't worry. Yeah, we will now send you into a short break, 15 minutes. You can get another beer or another sandwich, but before you run away. Afterwards, we will present to you what Manage More is about, a little bit more details about the program, about yeah, how Manage More can help you to found your startup, how it can help you to develop your personality, how to find your perfect team, and how to get the right team coaching maybe as well, to go through all the challenges that you will come across. And afterwards, we will do a small panel discussion where you can ask even more questions. And we have also some questions prepared. So yes, so please be back at 7:35. But until then, feel free to go out, network, and get some snacks and drinks. There will be a short announcement by Almo, but then
Yeah,
see you in
so
15 minutes.
a quick favor to ask, because like we got this room from Google and it's really nice, and we got all the drinks and the food and all the Google beer also. So would be also kind of you if you after you finish your eating and your drinks, if you put your dishes there into the, I think the sink, or there's a drawer where you can put your things into, and there's also for your drinks, I think a box or something like that where you can put your bottles into. And if you have any questions about the people with the DSC logo, they know more about that. But yeah, please put your dishes back then. Thank you.
Test, test. Okay, so for the people who are in the Google Meet room, can maybe some of you unmute yourself and try to speak something? We want to test whether we can hear you from the room.
Hello.
Oh, great.
Yay!
Yeah, we hear you. That's great. Then probably for the panel discussion, if you want, you can raise your hand. Then you can like ask question, like talk live to the guests. That would be great. Like if you want to.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the test.
So we'll start the program soon. Please take your seats. So we'll start.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Please be.
Can you guys hear us from the virtual stream?
Ja, ja, hier. Müssen wir hier weitermachen. Soll ich mal? Ja, stimmt. Ich bin als nächstes.
Ja, soweit ich weiß schon. Wenn nicht, dann schneiden wir irgendwie.
Hey guys, welcome back. Is the microphone working? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, so great to have you all back. I hope you're all back and refreshed. Now we start into the second part of the evening, and this part is about Manage and More. And yeah, now we're going to tell you a bit more about the program. So let's dive right in. What is Manage and More? Manage and More is an 18-month or 3-semester entrepreneurial qualification program, and offers you basically an awesome variety of really nice opportunities. So first of all, you can do projects with industries and startups, and it also brings you into contact with these industries. Then you have opportunity to do coachings and workshops. You have opportunity to do one-to-one mentorings, and you can also stay abroad at one of the partner institutions like Stanford or MIT, which is also a really great opportunity that you don't get that easily. And all in all, the aim of the program is to prepare you to be a successful founder or innovator. So you don't have to be a founder, you can also be prepared to be a leader or an innovator inside a big company, for example. Manage and More also has a great variety of nice partner companies, like for example McKinsey or BMW. And now we are going to dive into what the program offers you besides these things, which are basically 3 things, which Max is going to show you.
Yes, so basically the program is founded, or the foundation of the program is based on 3 pillars. And I think that the first one, it's fairly obvious by now that it's about entrepreneurship and leadership. So for example, we've talked about it before. There's the startup ProGlove, which was founded by Thomas Kirchner, and it exited for 500 million. So I think that's a very nice amount to raise. Yeah, and the other 2 pillars are personality development and community network. So it's very important to mention that it's not all about founding and starting your company. I mean, it's, if you want it, that's one of the pillars, but it's also about you personally. If you want to develop yourself as a leader, then you're also right at Manage and More. And it's also about community. So I think I can talk from my personal experience that every week there's like a Manage and More event. You get together with other scholars and you develop deep relationships. And I think what's most important and what makes the program very unique is that you're able to meet people from diverse backgrounds. So me as a business administration student, I'm currently working now in a deep dive, is what we call it, in the first semester, with other students from, like, for example, I'm in a team with a mechanical engineer, with one that studies mathematics. So that's really nice to see and to get to know those diverse perspectives. And I think that's what makes the program unique. And yeah, I think here today, it's also nice to see lots of techies. I think makes me feel special as a business administration student, I guess, which is not very often the case, but yeah. And also to add a personal note from myself, I went to Manage and More because I would like to found a company. So I'm here because of the entrepreneurship reason, I would say. But I guess, yeah, you can't just see like one pillar. You have to see everything together. So if you want to found a company, you also have to develop yourself personally, and you also have to work with the community. And yeah, let's just hear another story from another scholar.
Yeah, so as a computer scientist student, I can also maybe share my perspective. So maybe first a question to you guys and girls and everyone else. So who actually is now inspired after hearing all those nice talks to found their own company? Actually, quite a lot. So like, actually, if you want to found your own company, you have to do a lot of things that you really don't like. For example, like accounting, or like market analysis and all those crappy stuff. So that's why you need a good team and find like nice business administrators. And if you're like computer scientists, oftentimes we like to stay in our own bubble inside our own cellar and not socialize a lot. So this is actually a good opportunity for you to meet other people, other like-minded people who also want to found. But because maybe some of you didn't raise your hand, and if you don't want to found your own company, maybe you want to join Google or something like that. And for example, at Amazon, they ask you leadership principles, or at Google, you need Googliness or something like that. And this is actually another great pillar from Manage More, like personality development. We get one-on-one coachings with certified coaches. We get mentors that we can choose, for example, other CEOs or something, or people that are industry experts. So you get a really good community of other business administrators who can do your accounting. You get great personality development, and you can improve your leadership skills. So if this interests you, you can maybe join our other events.
Yeah, and also to lastly bring in my perspective at the intersection of techie and business administration as a management and technology student. For me, for example, it also wasn't about founding when I joined Manage and More, but especially about this personality development and community pillar. And the funny thing is that even after 3 months in Manage and More, my whole mindset changed. So I ended the program without wanting to become a founder, but through this whole entrepreneurial spirit and the people that I met in the course of the program, I really got pushed. And now I also have a dream of becoming a founder. So that's also a big thing about the whole program, that it really inspires you to get out of your comfort zone and also to develop as a person and as a character. And I think that's one of the nicest things for me about Manage and More. And yeah.
Maybe one short question. So since we heard so much now about the different backgrounds now from our Manage and More scholars, we would also be very interested to hear about your background. So maybe you guys can also raise your hand if you study computer science, for example. Yeah, this is definitely the majority. How about business? So you study management and technology, I assume? Yeah, okay. Anything else? Yeah, what do you study? Electrical engineering? What about you? Mathematics, okay. And? Sorry, medicine. Ah, cool. Mechanical engineering. And Liangna? Information systems. Yeah, so you see that, I mean, even though maybe the majority of people are from business backgrounds or from computer engineering backgrounds, I think this is also one of the special things that Max pointed out, the unique things that Manage and More. Even though the majority of people have a clear background, we have so many different diverse backgrounds, languages, for example, communication science and so on and so forth, so that we actually have the perfect puzzle pieces if you look for someone who has a different background for your startup or for your personal development. Just that as a note.
Perfect. So if you didn't get enough of Manage and More people today, you can also join us at our first info event at ProGlove, actually. So the company that Max just talked about, who was sold for 500 million the third time you hear today, but we won't stop. 500 million. Yeah, so if you want to join, just scan the QR code right here and register now. If you can't join at this event, you can come to the second event. Scan. Perfect. I see some phones. Good sign.
It's also almost sold out, so be quick.
I still see some phones. I will wait some more seconds.
Maybe we can talk about the involvement of the founder of ProGlove in the program.
That's a really good point. Thomas Kirchner, who already was mentioned earlier on, who's the founder of ProGlove, and they were just sold for 500 million. He actually is really involved with the program. So right now, as Max already said, all of us three are in our deep dives because we are in the new generation of Mansion More. And Thomas actually is consulting every single team personally. So we meet him once a week and talk to him, and he gives us his tips and takes on our problems and the state we are just in within our project, which is also really, really nice and a huge opportunity that you don't get that often.
Yes, and just a quick add-on there. When we started the program, we had a boot camp, so we went 5 days, like in a small village south of Munich, and which was really nice because we got to know each other, we got to spend time and sleep together, let's say, in the same place. So yeah, that was maybe the wrong. Don't understand me wrong here, please. No, so we really got to know each other very well right from the beginning, and we got to know like design thinking because that's like a big part of the program. So that's also really nice that you really get a lot from the program.
Yeah, I think we now had enough time to scan the QR codes. Now on to the second QR code. If you cannot come to the first info event at ProGlove, you can come to the second info event, which is actually at the home base of Mansion More at Unternehmertum in Garching. And yeah, there you have the second opportunity to get Mansion More, to get to know Mansion More better. And additionally, there will also be the leadership team of Mansion More, who you can talk to there. They are also really inspirational people, and you want to join the program, it is also a really good tip to just speak to them once and maybe get to know them better. And yeah, happy to see you there. And now scan the second QR code. Okay, no phones anymore. Bad sign. Maybe if you want to scan it later, you can also just ask us later and come to us. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. And lastly, we have Start and Spread. So that's the last event. I don't know who of you has heard about it or has watched it maybe previously. So that's a very nice event where startups, young startups from Manage and More, but also from outside come together and pitch their startups and their ideas to investors. So it's kind of like a small game what they do there. You pitch your startup and then you get rated by investors. Which is a very nice also event to get to know Manage and More and to get to know some startups there. So please join. It's on the 8th of June in the Personio office. Very nice location as well.
A unicorn's office, once we're talking about numbers.
Yeah.
Kind of. Munich ecosystem startup. So of course, Manage and More was involved in forming the startup. Yeah, and it's also a really nice event to just meet like-minded people, and if you're interested in entrepreneurship, it's the place to be on the 8th of June. So scan the QR code again and register.
Yeah, it's on LinkedIn and Instagram.
That's a really good information, actually, Yvonne, because all the events are on social media of Manage and More. So either on LinkedIn or Instagram. And if you are there, you can also leave a follow or like. Thanks. Yeah, and now I think we are close to the end. If you have any more questions, either come to all of us from Manage More in person and ask us here later, or just write an email to media@manage.more. And yeah, important, the application deadline is on the 12th of June, so don't miss out and apply till then. And let's hope we see a lot of faces in the next batch. If you have any questions, you can text Almo on LinkedIn.
There's another QR code that you can scan. So that's it with Manage More. Maybe we can also get to the next point, and that's the Q&A panel. So get your brains working and get some questions ready also for the people in the virtual live stream. If you want, you can raise your hand and then we will call you, and then you can also unmute you and ask your question. I will maybe move the camera towards the panelists, and then we can also get started with some questions. So who has the first question?
Just a quick question about getting into Manage and More. Like, what's the typical what's the typical semester that a student that applies is in? Like, is it like the third when he starts, or does it not matter?
Should I answer as well? So, I mean, you can apply from your third bachelor semester onward, but fourth, okay, fourth, maybe not the right person. But I think it varies. So we have people from bachelor's, master's. I started when I thought that I would finish Manage More after I finished my master's, but then here I am writing my master thesis. Yeah, but actually it doesn't matter, just when you feel ready.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question to all the startup founders who changed their mind. So initially you weren't so interested into startup and founding a startup, and you eventually got out of your comfort zone, or you changed your mind and want to know more about that like that switching of the mindset, and maybe you could provide me with some insight.
Do we all want to found? I didn't change my mind about this. It was just faster than expected. I don't know about you guys.
I think, for example, I never worked in a corporate. And I don't know if this is an advantage or disadvantage. I think especially if you look 5 years or 10 years ahead, then it's always good to see how structures could work, for example. When I joined Manage More, then I got also a mentor. I had Frederick, he is still the CEO of Magazino, and he was kind of mentoring me at the first time really closely. I think Thomas Kirchner also, I've been in touch a lot, and these are just great people. So I'm into to answer your question. For me, for example, I never changed my mind that I want to work in a startup, but I think working in a corporate could also have at the beginning some advantages. But if you don't, then it's good to have the network, and that, for example, you can get through Manage More.
How long did it take you guys until you got your first success with the startup? Did it take like 1 or 2 years until you got any positive response, or how was it?
I mean, it depends what you mean with positive response. We got our first customer and the first positive response before we founded the company. So we had this idea with the sensors, like I explained to you earlier, and we got invited to an E2 Europe. It was kind of a crazy tour where 2015 with some electrical vehicle pioneers had a plan to drive 5,000 kilometers in 7 or 8 days through Europe just with electrical cars. And our market entry strategy was to provide our sensor in front of EV charging stations, because those days already exist, to identify if cars block the EV charging station. And they took us on that journey for 8 days, and they also invited us for the hotels, for the transportation, and in every city where we stopped, there was something like an exhibition where you could present our sensor. The only problem was that we did not register a patent, and if kind of the sensor and the state of the technology goes public, then you cannot register a patent before. And this was like our reason also then to found a company and then register a patent in about 5 to 10 days before this journey begins. And then, yeah, I would say this is the first point we had.
Maybe to follow up to that, it also depends on what you define as first positive response, but I think we got very positive responses very early on. But then from that response to actually get to a product and to actually sell something is like, again, a really long journey. And I think especially in our case, because we're doing deep tech and in the healthcare space, is not a good combination. And I think the first positive response was already in the problem phase. But then I think until we really like had an actual interested customer, it actually took us a year if you count in the whole searching problem phase and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and then there's the third story to it. So I think to answer your question, we did fund our fundraising quite early. So without product, actually, so without like a lot of product, more like Figma and a vision behind that. But that was a success. Obviously, that's a validation that at least the investor thought it was worth investing kind of a lot of money into our company. Yeah, but I'd say that totally varies, and that will vary from company to company, and also what you define as success. Actually, my personal success was when we won a pitch competition. It was a really small one, and we got like 1,000 AVS credits that I never used. But I was really happy about this because it was the first time I pitched in front of someone and was super, super, super nervous. And yeah, that was my personal success.
Maybe a different question. Now, after talking about successes, you already talked about challenges before, and how you guys used also team coaching, for example, to get through those challenges. Maybe you can tell us more about your experience with that.
Yeah, so basically, Manager Moore kind of introduced me to this whole coaching thing, like, and didn't even know it existed before. And I did like personal coaching for myself. Yeah, how to get more productive and how to really find the best way for me to do this whole startup thing. And essentially, yeah, I don't know what else to say than that it's really, really good. It's working, basically. Yeah, and especially through Manager More, you have the privilege to have access to that kind of stuff. Usually coaching sessions cost a lot of money. Like one coaching session is over 100 euros usually if you would do that. And I think for team coaching, it's actually even more. I mean, if you have the privilege to do coaching so early on, it really helps you as a team. I mean, it really helps you to develop in the right direction. I don't know.
What did you do during your team coaching? What exactly?
I think it was a lot talking about yeah, differences within our personalities, using different there's like models where you have different colors for different personality traits and that kind of stuff, and we basically talked a lot about differences and how to overcome them if there were challenges, and kind of worked out strategies together to work better with one another. And it was a bit like therapy, to be honest. You're talking a lot about your emotions and how you're feeling and why you're that way and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I have maybe one thing to add. I mean, at the beginning, I was also enjoying the Manage More coaches and all that stuff, and today we're organizing that by ourselves. And when we're hiring, for example, people, I would say 70% of the decision is really personality and smartness, and then the rest people will learn. So this also then reflects in our coaching and other process and support we give our employees. We have a lot of workshops for personality, for example, and therefore we spend like 2,500 euros per day per person. And this is really nice because right now we're not in that phase that we have to kind of really get all money together and gather it, but we're more in the phase to be in a position where we could also offer this to people. And at the end, of course, it's also from an entrepreneurial and founder's perspective pays off, because those 2,500 euros are not that much compared, for example, to salary. And at the end will lead to better team performance than not doing it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a curveball question, but as we have a lot of techies here, and I'm a techie myself, I would ask the question, why do I as a techie care about personal development? I mean, it's all about my technical skills, isn't it?
I think the first thing, for example, we just did last week in a workshop is about motivation. So what motivates you? And there's a lot of knowledge out there, and there's a lot of self-reflectiveness you can do. And then for what you're using it for, kind of motivating yourself in your work, or maybe also motivating your team members, doesn't matter. And it's not really belonging to marketing, sales, or any other department.
Yeah, also another thing, even if you're a tech and even if you are coding, you're still working within a team and people still have to deal with you. And if you're unbearable to deal with, your life's gonna be really hard. So I think that's like kind of the more, yeah, negative answer.
Totally agree with that.
Felix, you asked the question already. I'm just interested to see if you have an answer. What drives you? What drives you? What motivates you every single day?
Well, at least for me, I think it's autonomy, to be able to do my own thing. I think that's the main driver, I would say.
So I think two things, what Kati just said. So being able to, well, work kind of more freely and more, for me, creatively at least. So thinking outside the box is creative work for me, and I enjoy it a lot. And also, it really bugs me if I see something is really inefficient, which it is in our space right now, and I like making it more efficient.
For me, it's building stuff. So even building products, building teams, building a company.
I asked a question before, maybe let me rephrase it. So in a different way. So a startup, like if you want to found a startup, and some people say, for example, the Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, he said, it's not worth it, in short. Or maybe if you look at the statistic that, for example, 90% of the companies which are started fail. You three guys don't seem to care, and I just wanted to know why you don't care and why you take the risk of that, maybe having a very extreme work-life balance, and then maybe it doesn't really pay off in the end.
For me, it's at the end fun. So I started this at the beginning, and it was a lot of fun. Of course, it was also a lot of stress, but all that stuff. But if you make a line on it, it's fun. And of course, on the other side, it's also how you interpret at the end success. So you could kind of get bankrupt and have huge problems and all that stuff, but can be still until there a lot of fun, a lot of success. How you deal, how you grow your personality and all that stuff. And so many founders, I think you probably all know, good example that they after they get bankrupt, they founded their most successful companies. So
I think you should really ask your question, what would make you happy? What do you want to do? And don't think about if it's going to pay off, because you never know if things are going to pay off. Not even if you have a great job, anything could happen. Corona could happen. They could fire you. They could be bankrupt as well. It's really about what makes you happy and what do you want to spend your life on doing, not where you want to arrive, right? So like, what is the journey that you want to have?
Maybe to add on that, so I mean, I do care if my startup fails or not, and I know that the odds are against me. But I mean, if Taiko would fail, which it will not, of course. But even if it would have been so far the best experience for me in my professional experience so far. So, I mean, the whole journey of founding your own startup, and even if it fails, and that's what I hear from people that founded startups that failed, is that all the learnings you get, you can apply in founding your next startup, applying for another job. I actually think if you founded your own startup, companies really want to hire you because they know you can work on your own. Yeah, so I think it's just one part of a journey, and hopefully the first one, that's it. Maybe it's the second one, maybe it's the third. But yeah, just keep going. And in the end, well, money is also an issue, right? So I'm still studying, so right now it's all a little bit easier. But for me, I mean, I would start freelancing or waitressing tables in the evening if right now, like whenever money gets a problem, and if I cannot pay myself a salary soon enough. So I think it's just like a progress that you have to go through, and you have to see it as such. Yes.
Would you start other companies after that if you exit the company, or if it fails or something like that? Would you do it again?
Right
Do
now,
other-
I'd say yes. But let's see what I say in 5 years.
What's the biggest mistake you made? Professionally, right? Not generally.
I'd say I don't know yet. Because whatever I'm doing right now is, well, paying off or not in the future. So I really cannot, I mean, really huge Of course, I make mistake every day. Like I sent to the wrong email address or something. That happens. Or like I forgot to attach the attachment. That happens a lot. But I don't know if it was the right decision to actually go with the business angel. In my gut, it feels really, really good, and on paper, it makes a lot of sense, but you never know. So I don't know. But maybe Felix can answer the question since he did the startup thing for a longer time.
Yeah, for me, it's also hard to say what is the biggest mistake. I also totally agree. There's so many mistakes I'm doing every day. But on the other side, you also have to be fair to yourself. Somehow, or sometimes you have to make a decision. And I think what you can challenge is the decision-making process until you make this mistake. So could you get more information? Could you wait, or could you talk to other people? Or maybe could you also more reflect on other people? So did you just bring your own opinion through, although there may be better situation for the company? Yeah, but in general, I think as bigger the mistake, as bigger the potential also for the learning. And I like this really simple sentence. You can make mistakes quite a lot, but don't make them twice.
Thanks. So I'm a second. Oh, do you hear me? Is it on? Oh. All right. So I'm a second semester student in business informatics, and I found university to be quite challenging, fresh out of high school. And I was wondering, like, you being students, did you take time off for the sake of your startups, like to work on it in a parallel manner, or how did you manage that? Like, I find it quite challenging to simply manage my studies on their own. So I was wondering, like, what did you do to get along in such a manner?
I also stopped studying in the 5th semester of my bachelor's.
Yeah, I think the short answer is I didn't manage. I just stopped studying, basically. Yeah. I don't know, what about you?
Well, I shared my master thesis story already.
No good answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
During your entrepreneurial journey, were there ever times where we were like really close to quitting, where we're like, I don't want to do this anymore, this just doesn't work? And if so, how did you deal with that?
hundreds of times, a lot of times. But I think my team really helped pulling me out of this, and we always had one person that was really positive. And also I just knew that I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I didn't want to, like, my horror was to start in a company. Oh, my horror still is to start somewhere in a company, and I think that fear kind of kept me going, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there was never at that point where I said, okay, I'm going to stop. There were moments, for example, our first financing round was quite challenging, I would say. It was in 2018, and we were before just getting all those grants and money from customers. And the run rate was really short, although we had already 15 people hired. So there was not that much time to close finally the round. And of course, everything takes then longer and longer. Same time, I had not finished really my studies. I still have the same question, how to deal with studies and founding company yourself. And then I also got my second kid, which was on different levels, really challenging. And the biggest concern I those days had, okay, what is the worst case scenario? And it would be that kind of we would stop paying salaries, and we would stop paying suppliers and all that stuff. And at a certain point, if you then not officially register kind of bankruptcy, then you also go in privacy. So you have to pay this money back from a private person as a managing director. And this would be a really bad case scenario for me, but at the end, it never happened. So, yeah.
We just wanted to add something. It's possible to still study and finish whatever you're doing. It's like, don't be afraid. I mean, it's gonna be tough at some point. We all have exam phase and everything, and it might be like a little bit tight, but it's still worth it. And you are able to do it. There's some people, we have a lot of stories of people that, yeah, sometimes they quit their studies, or they pivot their how you shift your priority in certain times. But I think we all know how that is. Sometimes you invest more time in this aspect of your life, and sometimes in another one. But it's still possible, and it's not like you put in managing more what you want to put there, time wise, and you will get something out of it. And it depends on you how much you want to put into the program and what you get back. So it's still possible to do more things at the same time. For example, I'm a professional athlete as well. I study, I do manage more, and I'm a professional athlete. So that is possible as well. It all depends on how much or how bad you want to have those things. So yeah, gonna give back the mic to you guys.
Hey. So you were talking a lot about your passion towards your startups, your business. But at some point, imagine that you have reached your total success in a couple of years, hopefully, maybe sooner, I don't know. And someone wants to buy your startup. What is the price?
50 million.
Maybe, I don't know.
501.
So you're talking, what I want to say, you're talking about passion, but this is business. So what is the point where you want, where you are able to sell your passion, or there is no point? So we know a lot of cases in business history, in startup history, where people declined a huge amount of money just to continue their passion, and basically they made the right decision. Did you ever think about this moment, or is it too far? I don't know. Thanks.
I mean, if you have the first investors, and we also got in 2018 the family of Swarovski into the company, then you always also have to talk about exit plans, because those investors, they somehow want to sell. So I think this is part of the journey. If you take money from external people, with giving them the expectation to double or whatever X, they get the money back. For me personally, it's like it's an energy thing. So as long as I get more energy out of the company that I'm spending in, I will still continue doing it. And I think this is also the question maybe to how can I study, how can I have family, how can I have friends in all sports and all that stuff. I believe that people can have almost unlimited energy. So maybe the example, there are those days where you worked a lot, where you had like 12, 14 hours and you get home and then you're still full of energy and you feel really, really good. And then probably you did a lot of stuff which gives you a lot of energy. And then maybe there are those days which you just worked a couple of hours, you got up at 10, then you kind of were doing some stuff, but not that much. And at the end of the day, you have really less energy. So you did not that much, but those things you did kind of took a lot of energy from you. And I think having this energy balance always in your view gives you also then the right opportunity or the right moment to sell the company. And the second thing is maybe also you should ask yourself if you're always the right person in that. For example, I really think Thomas from ProGlove, to mention this story again, did a really good job on identifying when it was the right time for him to give over the CEO position. And this is something I think not everyone can do because you kind of stick to this position and then you kind of throwing down the company instead of letting it grow.
What were the most challenging steps that you faced in your startup journey? Like, was it the legal side? Was it coming up with the idea? Was it finding a market part?
I think because I think with the most early stage here, for us, the most difficult part was to close the first customer, I would say. Yeah, that's the short answer.
Founding a startup in Germany, just from the legal side of founding the company, that is a pain in the ass. For example, you need a bank account to transfer the money and to actually do the GmbH thing. But the problem is that they want you to be legally founded for you to get a bank account. I mean, that was actually the point where I thought maybe I should stop in Germany, like continue somewhere else. Besides that, no, just kidding. But I think the whole legal part is a lot. I mean, talking from my perspective. And then, yeah, let's see. Customers are also, yeah, it's always there's something is gonna come that you cannot expect. For example, right now we're like no code solution, just a web app. And when we talk to customers, they say, yeah, but the IT department doesn't have any time. We don't need the IT department, we just need you. And this is, for example, in the sales process, it's big, yeah, challenge right now.
Does pure willpower and the power of the mind outweigh the knowledge that you have? And if yes, how so and how much? I mean, like, motivation comes from the mind, right? The willpower that you have. How is this, or is it stronger than the knowledge that you have and you get from learning, for example, in the uni? Does it make sense?
So I think for me, having a lot of willpower is one skill that you can have. Being really knowledgeable in, I don't know, AI or something, that's also like a skill that you bring to the table. Having a team of people that just want to do it, but they cannot do anything, that's also not good. So I think as a founder, you need more willpower because it's going to be really, really tough. And you don't have like, well, the only pressure you have is, especially in the beginning, is just from within your team, and that's you do that all to yourself. And so I think it's really important to have that, but it's not the only part. So for us, the media knowledge we have in our team is really important. Otherwise, we couldn't do what we're doing.
Yeah, I think, of course, both is really important. And also reflecting on the knowledge you need by yourself or the knowledge which other people need. So to give you an example, if you've found your first startup and you're 3 people, for example, then you have the perfect team because some people are or 1 people's making sales and marketing and maybe business stuff, the Tumblewear guy, and then the 2 tech guys which doing the rest. And for my example, I was the Tumblewear guy. I was doing sales and I love sales. I just really nice to talk to customers, to convince them, to sell them the stuff. And then somehow you start to have another salespeople, another sales guy, maybe first a working student and then a head of sales and all started to grow. And then you always have to reflect on your own role in this. Because although you love sales and it gives you maybe a lot of energy, you should start also working and managing those people. And then you have to manage 2, 3, 4 salespeople. You have to manage the other tech people. And then maybe the other tech people also growing and they have also managers. So from doing the stuff yourself, you're getting this management position. And I think for a lot of founders, this is not that much fun. So because then you kind of get disconnected to a lot of stuff you really loved at the beginning, especially talking for me to customers. Yeah, and I think this is a difficult point because if you don't realize that, when it's also important for you to get new knowledge, for example, how to enable others, or at the end, then how to enable people which have way more experience. Today we have people in all our management team. They have more experience than I. I'm not the youngest in the company, but I would say I'm the youngest in our management team. So this is another challenge now for me. And there's a high willingness to get this solved, but of course there's also knowledge needed.
Okay, there's one last question from the live stream. I think Nathaniel just raised his hand, so please just ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, from your experience, are there in the whole company building process any shortcuts you'd say are good to take and more ones that you'd say are more to avoid?
I mean, this is a really general question. And of course, now today we have 50 people. And of course, there's a certain structure which is working right now, but which is also changing if we kind of adding another 20 or another 25. And making today a clear structure and a clear vision how this could work in 1.5 years is really helping before just hiring people and then building the structures. On the other side, building too many structures too early is also decreasing. So I would say having 6 to 9 months and above, like how should the company look then talk to other founders which have maybe made the same growth, help you to avoid, and especially in those phases, the pitfalls and challenges you should not do by yourself.
So thank you guys for your questions. I think we still have time now at the Mingle together for you to come to the founders or to the scholars and ask some questions.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much to you 3 guys to answer all these questions here, for your pitches and yeah, for your time. So warm applause, please. So if you have any questions coming up to the 3 speakers, yeah, feel free to ask them also now during the meet and mingle afterwards. And if you have questions about Manage and More, don't hesitate to ask everyone with a Manage and More hoodie on, or everyone you've seen here in the front. If you have questions about the program, about the application process, about the time commitment you need to put in, because you don't need to quit your studies for Manage and More. Just to make that clear. Yeah, please come join us, join our other events, and keep the application deadline on the 12th of June in mind. And yeah, before we wrap it up, I think Liangda has some more QR codes to scan and announcement from GDSC side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, also thank you very much from our side. It's we've heard so many inspiring stories today, and also thank you for your interaction, your great questions. And before we end, I also have some small announcements. But unfortunately, I haven't prepared any QR code. But probably you know our website. That's where you register for this event as well. So the upcoming events from GDSC Munich, this Thursday, May 12th, we will have a industry level machine learning workshop with weights and bias. It will have one part of the talk and then a small competition at the second part where you can also win swags and prizes from the company. And this is a virtual event, and if you're interested, feel free to register. And also, I know we have still some people in the live stream. We will have another on-site event this month, so May 24th. It's a Tuesday, and it's also in this room. So this will be a community meetup where you, like all the Google community based in Munich, will come together. So you will have also the opportunity to meet Google Developer Group Munich and also Google Developer Expert based in Munich. And also us. So I will also come. Our team probably also come. So if you want to see us again, feel free to sign up. And also it's good chance for people who couldn't join in person this time. Maybe you can come for this event if this suits you. And a kind of spoiler, since this event, you can find it on our event website. It's still not published, but since you are here, I would like to tell you more. So there's some other events which we are currently planning. The first new research and generative art workshop with Gina AI. This will also be on site. Hopefully we could get the room here. But let's see, I'm still not sure about that. And then we will have Cloud DevOps on-site workshop with NetLet. This will be at the office of NetLet. I think this will be some talks and also some discussion in separate room. And also some talk about modern C++, quantum AI, and also our CTF. Probably we will have it in this semester again. So stay tuned. Like if you want to get up to date about our event, so feel free to join us at our event websites. Then you can get newsletters once the event is published. And also we have set up like an interesting form on our website. So if you have any interest or you want to hear from some technologies or from some companies or institution, you can leave your thought there and we will consider to arrange that. Great, so I think before we conclude, still some notes. If you like, so now we are at 8:30. The dinner time or networking time will last till 9:30. So we still have 1 hour time for dinner, for networking, and if you want to leave the building before that, or if you want to leave the building anytime in between, you need to come to one of the GDSC members with the t-shirt because you can't leave the building alone. So unfortunately, you need to get to us and then we will have you get out of the building. And I also want to mention that we have our great Google host, Melissa Wang, today with us. And let's give her an applause that you're here. Yeah. Yes, thank you so much for staying with us so long. And thank you so much for hosting us and let us come in. I think, is there any other last questions regarding the event today or GDSC or the procedure to leave the building? And also, don't forget to bring your dishes and empty bottles to the right place. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. And thank you so much for joining us today. And also for people in the live stream, thank you so much for joining. And hope to see you next time in person or virtual. Yeah, really great. Thank you so much. And yeah, now let's start the time for dinner or for the network. And I'm also going to stop the recording. So thank you, everyone.